Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video and podcast here from The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP. Nick is here with me as well, and we're going to be running through everything that we thought went down at Elimination Chamber, giving you our reactions, giving you our opinions, giving you what we just genuinely thought of the entire show as a whole. We're going to be breaking down every single match one by one, starting with that kickoff match, and then going through the main show's structure as well. So, how about we get down underway? Elimination Chamber in South Australia. It started off with the kickoff show. So obviously, as we were going through the motions at the very beginning, we had a impromptu match. I think it was announced the day before, a couple of days before, something like that, a couple of nights before, in the press conference. And it would be the Kabuki Warriors defending their women's tag team championships up against the team of Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. So Indy Hartwell, obviously the native Australian, getting involved in this matchup here, and that would obviously set the tone for the start of the show. So, Kabuki Warriors pick up the win. Don't think anyone's really surprised with that result, to be honest with you. But yeah, you know, pretty much went as you'd expect from the kickoff show match. I wouldn't say it was anything particularly special or anything, but it was just a way to get the crowd pumped up, ready to go, and then offering an expected result in there as well. I mean, we got to give the credit here to Indy Hartwell because it was her big moment, right? It was her hometown welcome. Well, not hometown welcome, her home country welcome. And she sort of like reveled in that opportunity and the chance to really sort of impress in front of the Australians. That was a really cool moment for her. Really happy for her. What did you make of the reception for Indy Hartwell?
Yeah, I didn't pull anything special other than the ovation for Indy Hartwell, and just kind of had me pondering. I think the potential that Indy holds, I think she could potentially be a big star, and I think her injury and her kind of weird transfer from NXT as the NXT champion at the time, I think has kind of put a bit of a rut in her movement. But I think she could potentially be a big star, and I think her ovation from the crowd was arguably, if not one of the best of the night. Could just be where she was on the card. But I feel like the other hometown heroes, if you will, the ovation wasn't quite as energetic as this one. And again, could entirely be based on where it was in the card. But as for the match itself, I think you're talking like clearly this was just put in there for Indy. And the match was expected, and yeah, nothing I don't think extremely noteworthy, but it was cool to see the ovation she got.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I thought the crowd were really hyped for Indy Hartwell. Obviously, I'd say like Candice LeRae as well, but I think we all know that it is directly aimed towards Indy. But I think you raised something interesting there. The transfer, obviously, from NXT over to main roster was a strange one, and it was a little bit odd. I think they did things a little bit differently there, obviously being the women's champion at the time. And I agree as well. She does have a lot of potential with the company. I think she hasn't really been utilized very much at the moment since being on Monday Night Raw. And I think the same goes for Candice LeRae as well, whilst we're talking about that. But yeah, I would love to see a bit more of these two women, really, just like on a regular basis. I think they both are talented individuals. So it would be nice to see them get a bit more of an opportunity on TV. I know they're getting a little bit more traction of recent times in the tag team sort of picture, but yeah, I want to see them sort of like continuing with that. To be fair, that would be nice to see. But yeah, no surprises that Kyrie and Asuka would win this one. Would have liked a little bit of a longer match, maybe a couple more minutes on top, but that's just being like a little bit critical there. I gave this one a 5. I gave this one a 5 out of 10. Just, you know, it was a nice little match to get things started and get the crowd pumped.
Yeah, I'll kind of chime in with basically the same tune. And give it a 5 out of 10 as well, and agree that Candice LeRae could be utilized better as well. But yeah, a little longer would have been nice, just to differentiate it from what we would see on a normal weekly show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically, I'm singing off the same hymn sheet there, and yeah, that will start the occasion. Elimination Chamber would begin moments after that. And we would start off the show, the main show now, with the Women's Elimination Chamber match. So this one, obviously, you know, the winner would go on to face the WWE Women's Champion at WrestleMania. That would be either Rhea Ripley or Nia Jax. So at face value, you're going up against one of those two at WrestleMania is a huge opportunity for all 6 of these women. You have the likes of Becky Lynch, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez, and Liv Morgan, all vying for an opportunity to advance over to the grand stage of them all. Showcase of the Immortals. And it would be Becky Lynch who would pick up the win here in the end. And whether you agree with that or not, that's what happened. So that's what we're going to be talking about here and now. I thought it was a good start to the show. It was a pretty enjoyable chamber match as far as I'm concerned. There were some nice moments throughout. I think Tiffany Stratton really, really did well for herself in this one. Like, she showcased everything that she was capable of. I think on NXT, it's been very much a case of Tiffany is like, the sort of like the daddy's little girl type gimmick. That was what she originally started off with, and it was basically sort of like going from there, trying to sort of progress in a natural sort of sense, raising the intensity as she goes along. She had a feud with Becky Lynch for the Women's Championship, which she would end up losing to her. And that sort of like sparked up another level of Tiffany Stratton, sort of raised that intensity of her game. And we saw a more vicious side of her then, and that sort of carried over into this matchup. And I was really impressed by Tiffany Stratton in this one.
Yeah, I don't think I could praise Tiffany any more than you did. I do believe it will be Tiffy time here for quite some time. I think she by far had the biggest biggest showing here, for sure. Out of all the women here, I think it's clear that she made the biggest name for herself in this match. Clearly, Liv's been pretty over herself, and so much so that she had a trending hashtag for herself on X about giving her a chance. And with that being said, she was still booed when she had eliminated Tiffany. So I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, absolutely. Her involvement was tremendous throughout. I've got a couple of her spots listed here. She obviously go on to do a swanton from the top of the pod, which was a great, cool spot, to be fair. I really enjoyed that one. And I think just generally her presence in the match was, you couldn't really not notice it, right? Like, for your first PLE on the main roster, I thought she did a tremendous job. Like, she didn't look like she was brand new to it. So, I mean, all credit to Tiffany Stratton. But obviously, there were 5 other women involved in this one. A couple of other spots that I would like to mention here. Liv Morgan would sort of like jump onto Raquel from the top of a pod as well. That was a really cool little spot towards the latter stages of the match there, sort of the mid-late stages there. I enjoyed that. So, like, again, raising the intensity. We know what Liv Morgan's capable of in these type of matches. You also had a lot of action involved in the chamber structure. Like, I think everyone was sort of involved within. I think we can just see there on the top image there with Becky Lynch putting the disarmer on Tiffany Stratton through the chains, which I thought was a pretty cool moment as well. They utilize the environment a hell of a lot, to be fair, throughout this matchup. Did think, though, that the first elimination was quite surprising. Naomi going first. I don't know about the decision making there, but Naomi obviously recently just come back at the Royal Rumble and taking the first elimination here. I was surprised about that. I'm not sure what you made of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I just have a list of all the women and kind of what I thought of their performance in the chamber, but Naomi definitely was the most shocking to me, with her return. Not a month or so ago. Kind of thought maybe they'd give her some sort of stronger booking on the way back, but in no way, shape, or form appears that that's going to be the case. I think it's kind of one of those scenarios where they brought her back for the pop at the Rumble and didn't think any further ahead. So, unfortunately, I think she came out looking really weak here. I think by far out of all the women here, I think she came out the weakest. And then just running down the rest of them, I felt like we already spoke towards Tiffy. I think she did great and the best showing of the bunch. I thought Liv had a really good performance as well. She's continuing to turn things around from her first Money in the Bank cash in. To, very much not like she's definitely turning that around. I thought Raquel had a pretty strong showing as well. Took a load of offense, and they're really making her out to be a force to deal with, to be reckoned with going forward. And then Bianca, I think Bianca kind of has that star power, and then I think that we expect so much from her. It almost feels like a letdown when you don't get something amazing. But she had a strong showing as well. And I think, as we kind of spoke to on the predictions, I was okay with her or Becky or Liv winning. So I think everyone comes out of this match looking better, with the strong exception of Naomi. I could argue maybe Becky as well. Becky felt like although she was the first one in the match, and I'm not going to go on a rant about how we're doing the bell-to-bell stuff. I think that's getting overused, as we saw from the Rumbles as well. I don't think you've diluted the whole bell-to-bell thing by doing it every single time. It really does seem that way now. And I think Becky kind of just felt like she was there, just happened to be in the right places at the right moments, which is something similar we'll see in the men's side of this. But I don't feel like Becky was. I don't know. She just felt kind of there to me. Curious to hear your thoughts on that one. But I thought everyone kind of came out stronger here, with the exception of Naomi. And yeah, I really enjoyed this match, and I think I gave it about 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this one.
I mean, yeah, it's basically the same as what I'm thinking regarding this one. I do agree with you with the fact that Naomi does come out looking the weakest. I think everybody else does sort of like. They have a sense of, pride coming from this one. Nothing to really be ashamed of. Obviously, Raquel only just recently coming back. You're not going to expect too much from her. Tiff first PLE. Liv Morgan did very well to get to runner up in this one. She's, as you said, she's doing really well for herself. She's improved a hell of a lot, tenfold if you ask me, actually. So I'm quite impressed with what I'm seeing from Morgan recently. And then obviously Bianca's so good as well. I'm not going to go on a little bit like that, but yeah, Naomi, unfortunately, she did take the worst of the deal in this one, I think, for sure. Becky, regarding being in the right place at the right time, yeah, I think so. I don't know if that's experience coming into play, and obviously she's never been in a chamber match, but the principle is in a multi-man match, multi-woman match, you want to be in the right place at the right time. You want to know where to be at all times. You want to sort of take the heat off yourself, plus also taking advantage of other opportunities that come up. I guess you could say that I think we're definitely overthinking that, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I guess you can maybe play it down to that. But Becky Lynch winning this one, I would have rather Liv, but I'm not going to say that I'm unhappy with Becky winning, because at the end of the day, it does make sense. Becky against Rhea or Nia at this point is a big match. Is a big match for sure. So yeah, no real complaints from me. I like the finish. The finish was pretty cool, to be fair, where you had obviously Liv roll up Bianca, slightly sluggish that roll up, but it was a really good idea with the roll up. Liv's sort of got no time to react. Becky hits the manhandle slam, and then obviously 1, 2, 3, job done. I thought it was a nice little finish, to be fair, from the three of them. It was actually it wasn't the final two, it was the final three in that sense, wasn't it? Because it was such a short period of time in between. But agree with you with the rating wise. I also gave it an 8 out of 10. Obviously, you were in between 8.5. But yeah, I've gone for an 8. And yeah, I thought it was a good way to start the show. Thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I think we should take a moment of silence for Liv as well, who has now become famous for being the runner-up. It seems like quite a few times. I think it's at least 3 or 4 times now she's become runner-up in these matches, Elimination Chamber and Rumble. So yeah, moment of silence for her. And I think the last part was, I felt like maybe a little rushed. I don't know. It was very sudden. I felt like the match was going at pretty good pace, and up until then. And then just kind of the way Naomi was eliminated. I know we talked about a little bit about that already, but she jumped off the top of the pod. Then I think it was Liv or Tiffany just penned her, roll up penned her, and that was it. I was like, oh, that was very anticlimactic as well. But yeah, overall, just picking at straws at this point. But overall, it was a good match.
Yeah, I think it was Tiffany Stratton with the elimination of Naomi, because I think I remember saying at the time, wow, she's got a pinfall early here, and it's against, and it's Naomi. So I think that's how that one went down. But yeah, I agree with Liv Morgan. She is the runner-up at this stage, right? Not the gimmick that you want to be known for, but that's essentially what she's been doing recently. The Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chambers, it's all about being a runner-up for Liv Morgan, and she'll want to put those wrongs and change them into rights at some point. So yeah, not ideal for her, but I'm sure it will all click at some point for her, and she'll start picking up some victories and get some bigger matches going forward. So after this match, then we did go on to the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championship match, which was Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate challenging Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest. And for those of you who watched our predictions video, and obviously for Scarlett's reference here, I went into this one thinking that I wasn't overly interested. And I guess I kind of harshly said that because I'm more not interested in the title reign of Judgment Day at this point. It's not so much that I didn't care for the match, it was the title was seeming a little bit I wasn't quite invested. But yeah, that did sort of throw a little bit of shade onto this matchup, and I wasn't overly sort of as hyped as I could have been. But coming off the end of it, I thought this one was an absolute barnstormer. I thought it was a hell of a match between all four of these guys, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It really, really delivered, and I thought it went over expectations for myself. I know you praised it quite highly going into this one, thinking it will probably be match of the night, and I think you were pretty much correct there, weren't you?
Yeah, I don't ever toot my own horn, but I think this one did live up. I don't know if that is a testament to Pete Dunne. I feel like anything Pete Dunne is good. But then what's the team name now? We've just dubbed this team
New Catch Republic.
New Catch Republic. Thank you. But yeah, I feel like anything these guys are in tends to be good. They both just have a way about working with one another. And then Finn obviously being Finn Balor, so no issues there. And then Damian Priest actually had a pretty strong showing here as well. But yeah, this match completely delivered on what I thought it would be, which in my opinion was match of the night, and probably the best crowd involvement I feel like as well. They really had the crowd eating out of their hands on this one. A shame to see New Catch Republic losing, but I think kind of expected it. But I don't think you're completely in the wrong in that, because you're not invested in a title, you're obviously not going to be as invested in a match involving said titles. I think WWE does have a lot of work to do with both tag titles currently, but I think giving it to New Catch Republic at some point would be a great start to that, because they just have money written all of them. Very entertaining and very high on my list of favorites at the moment.
Yeah, having watched these guys go through NXT as well in the build up to being on the main roster, obviously Pete Dunne's been on the main roster for a while now, obviously under Butch, Brawling Brutes, whatever. They both are tremendous competitors. They're both so technically gifted in the ring. They're just vicious. Well, Pete Dunne is vicious the way he goes about things. Tyler Bate is so strong as well. They just complement each other tremendously. They've got that natural charisma together, the chemistry. And yeah, these guys are going to be really great going forward. They're great assets for the main roster to have. I did think that Judgment Day winning was the correct decision at this point. Although I'm not invested in their reign, I don't think that this would have made too much sense to have the titles changed, but I wouldn't have been against it. I would not have been against it in the slightest. But like you said, match of the night, I agreed with that as well. I'm dubbing it as my match of the night too. I gave it a big old 9 out of 10, to be fair. But yeah, fantastic match. Hell of a lot better than I anticipated. Judgment Day winning, obviously, like I said, no surprise. But towards the early mid stages of the match, Dom getting involved, and he'd interfere a bit too much. He gets sent to the back, so he would get ejected from ringside. It would just leave the team to sort things out between themselves, and they did a very good job of it as well. Lots of very close moments and near falls, made for some very very interesting moments towards the end of the matchup. And just a little shout out as well, the Birmingham Hammer. Thought that was quite a cool little innovative name there. Quality move, and great little innovation there on that move name.
Yeah, great. I can't say it any better myself. Definitely couldn't have. But yeah, just the style of New Catch Republic and Dom's interference, I think too is a good point to make. I think, and you've heard me, rant about this many times, but the interference of the heels is very, wrestling 101, and I feel like it's overused. And I don't think it has to be used all the time, especially by dominant champs like Gunther and Roman. But in this case, the referee removing Dom from the match, I think that's something I'd like to see a lot more of, especially if they're coming down, at the beginning of the match with the team. Like, it's clearly obvious they're there for one reason. I think you're making the refs look stupid by not throwing them out more often, and then we're actually getting what we want to see, which is a full match without interference. So props on that decision as well. And had that not happened, perhaps the match wouldn't have ended up being as good as it was. And I too gave this one, I think that's what you gave as well, as a 9. Yeah, just a ton of fun.
Yeah, you make a really good point there. It is overused. The interference, because of the heels, it's so commonly done, and it doesn't need to be done as well. Like, these guys are obviously good enough to get the job done by themselves. They don't need Dom out there. They put on a hell of a match without Dom being there for the entire time. And it goes for any heel, really. Like, you can sort of, like, commit to it, and you can do the job without having to, like, sneak a win in some sort of, like, shady way. So, yeah, this was a nice little fresh change of pace. Them ejecting Dom, that was good. And we could obviously just see a classic match between the four of them. So, yeah, tremendous. We both agree, 9 out of 10. I think that's, basically all of that covered. So let's move on now to what followed this one. And we actually had a little segment. So it wasn't a match after that. It was the Grayson Waller effect, which was advertised, I think, just in the build-up towards this one. I think it was about a week or so before. He would have guests on his show, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And we did also see a little bit of Austin Theory in the presence as well. And we're not going to go too in depth on this one, because obviously it's not like a match. So we wanted to sort of talk about the big points, and then we'll go from there. So, I mean, the main point here, right? We're talking Cody Rhodes calling out The Rock, right? I'd be remiss if I didn't start with that. That was basically the whole point of this. Basically, that's what they were building up towards. Cody made the big announcement, and it was a big scoop for the Grayson Waller effect. And, we can talk about how that's going to go into the Bloodline story regarding WrestleMania and what that's going to mean for Cody in the build-up. When's the match going to happen? You got a lot of questions regarding that. So yeah, Cody against The Rock, quite an interesting topic of conversation there, right?
Yeah, I think that's the main, the takeaway here. As far as how they're going to do that, I haven't the slightest clue. But I think it does further reiterate the fact that this is not what WWE planned. I had questioned that before, if this was just kind of a workaround or this is what they had planned all the whole time. But I think that's obvious that's not the case. I think they're kind of figuring it out as they go as well. Perhaps a night one match with him and The Rock and Seth being there, maybe. I don't know. It's weird. But the segment itself was fun. I think Grayson kind of got. I think Grayson's pop was bigger than Bria's too. And again, it might just play out in where it was on the card. But Grayson was very much liked here, and I think that should be noted by WWE. I think he has a lot of star power as well, as obviously everyone in the picture here. But yeah, and once again, they're becoming the butt of the joke, so to speak. And yeah, we'll see where they go with this. But I think even entering Grayson and Theory in the tag division, as clearly they both have a lot of potential, would be something I would not be against.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Austin Theory because obviously, he was there in attendance and we saw what happened, him getting beat down by Cody and Seth, and it didn't really go his way. But I was thinking about things on a different side of things. So I was thinking maybe, Austin Theory getting beat down, Grayson Waller just watching it happen, not really getting involved. He claiming that he tried his hardest to stop it from happening. Obviously, that was not the case. I don't know. I got a feeling that Theory might end up standing up for himself and maybe, getting tired of Waller. We've actually seen it hinted on recent weeks on SmackDown, because I think there was a conversation between a couple of guys backstage. I think it might have been Theory and Kevin Owens, I think, maybe. And Grayson Waller would step in and he'd basically just agree to the demands straight up there and then. And then Theory would be like, what are you doing, sort of thing. So almost like a little bit of disarray there. And then obviously this moment here as well. I think there might be sort of hinting towards them going separate ways, maybe. And I don't know if that means a babyface turn for Austin Theory. I know that's been heavily rumored for a long time, but that could be an option as well. But yeah, regarding Cody and The Rock, I have no idea. Could they maybe do one night, like night 1 Cody against The Rock, and then they do night 2 Cody against Roman? That seems, I don't know, maybe over exposure maybe for Cody Rhodes, but I don't really know where else they would do it. It has to be a big time place for the matchup to take place, so that makes the most sense. I can't see them doing it on a SmackDown, but yeah, it's definitely some questions raised from that one.
Yeah, I hadn't. Maybe it's just because that's how they were from. I feel like that's kind of how, referring to Theory and Grayson here. I feel like they've always just kind of been a little off. Like they never felt like a real tag team to me. They've always felt like they kind of have been their own person, and then just happened to be wrestling from time to time with this guy. But I feel like they've never been 100% gelled. At least that's how they've been booked, in my opinion. But yeah, maybe you're onto something. Maybe that is where they're going with this. But I think they are obviously both bigger than a tag team. But we see that a lot without bringing them up through the ranks. But it is strange, after Theory beating Cena, it didn't really seem to do much for him. So just an interesting point to note for myself.
I don't know really where Theory goes from here. Maybe is that split from Grayson? I'm not sure, but either way, that was the Grayson Waller effect there. I think we basically covered everything that happened in this little segment. So the match that followed after this was, in fact, the men's Elimination Chamber match, and this would determine Seth Rollins' opponent for his match at WrestleMania. So obviously we have 6 men again involved in this one. So you have the likes of Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight all involved in this one. And it would be, I gave it basically a very similar reaction to that of the women's one. I thought it was really good as well. I thought it was quite solid for a chamber matchup, and it had my attention from start to finish, to be honest with you. I thought that the match was going on at quite a nice pace, and then Logan Paul got in, and suddenly a switch was flipped, and it just sort of, the intensity just went up a notch. Like, that's when the match actually freaking started. It was nice until Logan got in, and then it just went, you know what, we're done playing. It's going to be crazy from here on out. And I thought that was quite a cool spot. Like, Logan's involvement obviously sparked up Kevin Owens, and there were some really funny moments between those two throughout it. We can talk about that for probably 5 or 10 minutes here, I'd imagine. But yeah, Logan's involvement, the whole match changed the complexity. The intensity was really raised from that moment onwards. I thought that was quite interesting, to be fair.
Yeah, I think Logan once again proved that he belongs here. Just props to him writing, in mirror form to allow everyone else to read that. I think a lot of people maybe not have thought about that. You have to write those in that way so we can read it. Otherwise, no one would be able to read it. But yeah, he definitely made full usage of him and Kevin Owens too, where he was kind of reacting to someone being thrown into his pod. Definitely make that spot seem like you can do something with it. I feel like this match wasn't as good as the women's. Not a lot less, but just maybe just not quite as good. Maybe a couple steps down. I felt like this match was perhaps a little overbooked, and I think maybe that comes with the territory of these matches, because you have 6, typically top talent wrestlers in the same pod, so you have to do something sometimes to make it noteworthy. But I just felt like there were just some weird parts of this match, and I felt like they tried to do too much. And we can delve into that a little more here in a minute, but yeah, I just didn't feel like it delivered quite as well as the women's did. One noteworthy that maybe I've missed something, and you can help fill me in on this, was the AJ Styles bit. To my knowledge, him and LA Knight didn't have any issues with each other, unless I've completely missed something. My old age is getting to me. I don't recall them, but even still, it just felt kind of random to me. What were your thoughts on that bit and the rest of the match as well?
I think that although LA and AJ Styles, they have had their issues in the past, I thought there was almost like a very brief period over a couple of weeks or so where that sort of petered out and we didn't really get any sort of mention of that. Obviously, AJ is not forgotten. He's obviously, kept that intensity up. But yeah, I think, what was it? Didn't LA Knight cost AJ Styles his place in this match? I think AJ was in a matchup against Drew McIntyre, and I think Knight would get involved and he'd cost the he cost AJ the chance to be in this matchup. So I think that's basically where it stems from there. Obviously, goes back to like Royal Rumble and before that. So I think they sort of they wanted to keep this going, but they've done like little bits here and there just to sort of like make it think, we're not quite done with this, but we want to keep you. we don't want to like shove it in your face right now. We want to keep reminding you of it as we're going along. Maybe that's their idea. Maybe that's what they've gone into in this. But I mean, it's hella impressive from AJ Styles. He really must hate LA Knight. He flew halfway across the world, wrist falling off the edge, in order to cost LA Knight the chance to go to WrestleMania to face Seth Rollins, and that's kind of mad. Just for the record, I don't believe the Earth is flat. It's just that running joke with AJ Styles. Just an FYI there. But now you got to give credit to Styles for that. The hatred is real, absolutely real. But I think that's basically where it comes from. That sort of like reason I just mentioned there. But yeah, you made some interesting points. I actually disagree with the fact that I thought that the women's match was better. I thought this one was actually a lot more entertaining than the women's one. Don't get me wrong, I didn't think either were bad, but I just thought this one was a slight step up. So yeah, we're definitely at different levels. We've definitely got different vibes on that one. So interesting with that one. My reasons that this one was better was purely because of I thought it was a lot more intense. I thought it was way more sort of I thought the spots were a bit bigger. I thought the rivalries. I thought the heat was a lot larger in this one. Obviously, you had Kevin Owens and Logan Paul with their sort of tremendous heat towards each other at this point. Obviously, building up into this one. McIntyre hates everybody going at the moment. Everybody with a heartbeat he hates. So that's obviously his sort of thing that he brings into this one. Bobby Lashley, I thought he was a little bit of a maybe just a last minute addition, try and sort of fill the numbers perhaps, and he was there to sort of play the big spots. Obviously, he would knock Logan Paul through the pod. That was that's a classic chamber spot that we always see every year, but that was good to see again. And then obviously Randy Orton, he was just there to sort of have that sort of large experience in there. The fan favorite probably going into this one, maybe LA Knight, you could evolve in that one as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot to take from this one going into WrestleMania, and I think that's also a reason why I really liked it, because it shapes a lot of stories. You've got LA and AJ, you've got Logan and Randy now, because obviously of what happened at the very end of this matchup, where Logan would be prepping the brass knuckles, he would be getting them ready, and then Randy Orton hit that RKO out of nowhere, eliminates Logan Paul. A fair few minutes would pass by with just Randy and Drew left. I think it probably was about 4 or 5 minutes maybe, and Logan was still in the chamber. I think I remember saying to my partner Steph, we were watching it together, and I was saying Logan's still in the chamber. I can see his foot on the left side of the camera. I just thought that was a bit weird. I was like, why is he still there? They normally get rid of him. They get rid of someone as soon as they're eliminated. I thought maybe he's going to be involved in a minute, but I can't see why he would be. And then obviously we saw what happened. Randy would be weighing up for the victory, and then he would get knocked spark out by Logan Paul's brass knuckles. So yeah, the big right hand, out went Randy Orton. Obviously that's another thing that we can take going forward to WrestleMania, Logan Paul, Randy Orton. So I think from a story-based thing, that's why I gave it such a high review here. There's a lot to take from it. So I want to know what your thoughts are regarding where this match is, obviously, from what it went, to where we're going into WrestleMania. I think a lot of those questions are maybe answered from this one.
Yeah, I can't argue a lot of those points, and I will definitely agree that from a story-based perspective, both for this match and going forward to WrestleMania, definitely did a better picture. Definitely did a better job of painting the picture, more clear. From the women's side, we're still unsure of a lot of things. Who dislikes what, and it seems to be a a bit more of everything's in shambles kind of bit. So I will agree with that aspect of it. Logan Paul KO and all these rivalries at the moment, I just felt like some of the things were a bit too forced, albeit the AJ coming in to knock out LA Knight, the Logan after he being eliminated, knocking out Randy. I think a lot of these were hopefully to build a story, but hopefully not just to protect these, hot talent at the moment. These hot superstars in LA Knight and Randy Orton, who we were thinking, can they take another pin? Who would pin them? And I think we were kind of worried about that. So I think that kind of why my reasoning as to why I felt like it was definitely had more spots. I just felt like they were a little more forced and possibly didn't make a ton of sense. But that being said, going forward, yes, the picture is much more clear. I think you could do several things here, with the LA Knight and clearly AJ Styles, and then Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and KO clearly had some unfinished business as well. So yeah, and like I said, neither match was bad. I just felt like this one wasn't quite as good, but both were entertaining, and that's what they're there for, right? It's kind of hard, you do these matches every year. It does become hard to do something new. So props to both for still keeping my attention.
Yeah, I think I alluded to that earlier on as well when I first started describing this one, that it did have my attention throughout, and I thought they did a good job of that. Obviously, we'll disagree on whether we think it was better or worse than the women's one, but I think either way, we got that clear picture going into WrestleMania. And speaking of which, Drew McIntyre, the winner of this one, I feel like we've barely spoken about Drew so far. I think he absolutely deserves this. I'm so looking forward to him against Seth at WrestleMania now that we have this fully eclipsed heel version of Drew McIntyre. I think he's coming into his own from this one. He's doing such a good job of just annoying everybody, right? Just the shade that he's throwing at every single person that steps in his way or that he's thinking about. It's fantastic. And yeah, his victory is solidified by, his just completely awesome character work of recent. So yeah, happy for him. He goes up against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Really looking forward to that matchup. And yeah, that's another conversation for another time. But I gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. Highly rated it. And they are my general thoughts on this one.
Yeah, and I think this could be said towards both the Elimination Chamber matches, is that the winner, I think, was, not. Yeah, in this case, I think it was pretty obvious, and I think that you could make the case for Becky too. We've talked about that since the Rumble. We thought Mommy and the man would be the story, and Drew obviously is on a run like nobody's business, taking no prisoners, and I think we're both in agreement that he very much deserves another shot at a title run. The COVID era just was just shit for him. In terms of could have been a lot better with the fans, obviously, but that's no fault of anyone's. But yeah, excited to see Drew's run to the title and taking it from Rollins that we've been thinking is overdue for quite some time. But I give this one an 8. And again, a really fun match. Just had a few things I felt, a bit of a head scratcher, but good nonetheless.
Not gonna lie, I was expecting you to give it a slightly less rating than that. Eight's solid though. I think we can all agree on that one. And like you said, you not so much that you didn't like it, just thought the women's one was a tad better and clearer, and that's fair enough. I completely understand that. I think we will differ on opinions there, but that wasn't all for the matches at the Elimination Chamber. We did have one more still to go through, and that was the main event. And I didn't know this one was gonna main event, actually, to be fair. I think I mentioned it on the predictions video saying that I think there was a chance, but I never truly believed it would. But hey, I mean, fair play. Mami got her moment, and she absolutely relished every single second of it. She would defend the Women's Championship up against Nia Jax, and she would do so successfully. And I don't think anyone is surprised by that outcome, right? I think Rhea winning is the absolute obvious call here. So yeah, Rhea retaining, yeah, like I said, no one's really surprised by that. And Yeah, actually going into this one, I think we heavily criticized it, saying that, Nia Jax, is she really like gonna have a decent match against Rhea Ripley? That's probably gonna be very hard. We've never really seen Nia have a solid match. I think, if you think to yourself, if you think to yourself before this matchup took place, what was Nia Jax's best match in WWE? I think you're probably going to be scratching your head for a little while. You have to do some research. You have to Google it because no one's got an idea, right? No one's got a damn clue. But to be fair to Nia, I thought she actually did really well in this one, and it was probably one of, if not Nia's best match to this date. And I think that's probably because of Rhea Ripley being able to to carry her through that one, right? It just shows the quality of Rhea Ripley and what she can really do to elevate other superstars on the roster. And I thought the match was pretty much as expected. Rhea would start off strongly. Nia would come back. She'd dominate through a large part of it. And, it'll obviously go the way of the mummy in the end. But what I did really enjoy in this one was the announce table spot. And I thought that Nia, at that point, it was believed that Nia was going to win, right? She puts Rhea through the announce table. She rolls her into the ring, drops the Annihilator. And that's when you're starting to think, holy shit, they're actually going to, holy damn, they're actually going to do this, aren't they? They're actually going to, have Nia win. I didn't think that for a second, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people did, because they really built that to be. Obviously, they built Nia really strongly recently. And I thought that was her moment there. And for Rhea to kick out of that was a big, big, big moment. What did you think of that spot?
Yeah, so I'm going to support your opinion in the fact that, yes, that was a big spot. And the issues I have with why I didn't buy into it, other than the fact that, we haven't been super impressed by Nia, but we all know that one guy who does, in fact, think that she has very much high potential. But the reason I didn't buy into it was because, and this is a complaint on Rhea's reign herself that I'm sure I mentioned before, is that even though she's this big dominant heel, she's often booked in matches where she's giving out, less offense than the opponent. They've done this even with the smaller competitors and ones that we didn't think stood a chance in hell. And now we can make the case that Nia is also one of those people that didn't stand a chance. She obviously has the stature to compete more so with Rhea. And so for that reason, I didn't buy into the hype that maybe Nia could win. Because that's just how Rhea's matches seem to go. She seems to get out offensed in most of her matches. But that being said, the match was better than I thought it would be. And again, I don't know if that's Rhea carrying or not. But Nia has improved, and I will give credit where credit's due. This match was fun, and the crowd probably helped that as well. But I think if she continues to expand her moveset, obviously referring to Nia, I think she could potentially be a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, and I've mentioned the crowd before here. I think, and it could have just been because it's the main event and everyone's tired at this point. But I feel like during the match, I don't feel like Rhea got as big of a pop as the other two hometown heroes. She did at the end, I think. When they showed her family and all that, I think the pop was finally there. But yeah, deserving win, and we'll see if she can defend it against Becky at Mania.
Yeah, I think that, you're pretty bang on there with the reasoning why Nia isn't going to be believed to have won this match. And I'm not saying that I was taken into that sort of vibe that I thought she was going to, but I thought just the general kick out of the time, I thought, that's badass, fair play. If someone's going to kick out of that, it's going to be Rhea bloody Ripley, right? And I just thought that moment was kind of big. And yeah, I know you agree with that, but yeah, I didn't buy into it properly. But I thought, wow, that's huge. That's a message sent not only to Nia but to all the rest of the division, saying no one else on this roster is going to kick out of this, but I will. Just a statement made, and I appreciate that. But yeah, regarding Becky and Rhea at WrestleMania, obviously we know that now is going to be the way that they're going with this. I think it's going to be a tremendous match. Like, we've only seen, I think we alluded to this on the predictions video, we've only seen Rhea and Becky go one-on-one once before. That was on NXT a while ago. So it's never been done on the main roster. That is a crazy stat, right? Considering how long both of them have been on the main roster now. You'd think they would have crossed paths before this, even like a little one-on-one on like a Raw or SmackDown or whatever at some point. It's never happened on the main roster, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's kind of mouth-watering. It's a big match, Mammy against the man, and I'm excited for it, you know, definitely excited for it. I gave this matchup between her and Nia a 7 out of 10. And that's involving Nia Jax. I think that's pretty good, right? So yeah, 7 out of 10. Just that big moment toward the end was, I think, a definite rating riser in this one. But yeah, surprisingly good, and a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I can't agree more. You know, expectations weren't super high, so anything decent's going to you know, satisfy your expectations for this kind of match. And I swear I'm not copying your ratings. These are the ones I have written down. I also gave it a 7, but that's kind of par for the course. We're usually on the same page. We do, you know, with our opinions on the 2 chamber matches, we do differ from time to time, so we're not always in agreement. But yeah, this is a fun way to end the match and a fun scene as the one shown here. A fun scene to end in Australia. I thought maybe they could have brought out Becky again to get that face to face, build that momentum. But again, I'm just being picky here, but and maybe just to keep the crowd on Rhea's side and avoid the possible, you know, because she's a heel, that sort of thing, mix up the dynamic there. Maybe that's the reasoning for them not doing that. But yeah, a good match, and continuing to raise my expectations for Nia. And I want Rhea to get more offense in her matches. That's my biggest complaint. As dominant as long as she's been champion, I feel like that should be a pretty understandable request.
Yeah, completely reasonable. Yeah, I don't think you're asking a lot there, to be honest with you. She's capable of doing that, so why not, you know? But yeah, regarding Becky, that would have been really cool. They did bring her out at the end. It would have been a nice moment. But like you said, I do understand why they probably didn't go down that route. I think if you know, based on this point, the crowd are absolutely elated at Rhea winning. Becky shows up, they probably boo Becky out of the building. So might not have been the best of ideas because, like you said, Rhea's meant to be the heel in this one. So that's going to be the dynamic going to WrestleMania. They don't want to shift it around. I can see that. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there, to be fair. And yeah, the crowd were great for this one. They were loving the moment, and it was great to see it all coming down to it. And yeah, your rating wise, by the way, I think we've been 0.5 different depending on what you would have given the women's one. I think you said 8.5. So regarding everything else, has been 0.5 different, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, we're on the same sort of level here with our ratings and whatever. So if we talk about the show as a whole now, then sort of get like a little bit of a gauge from top to bottom, I thought it was a pretty decent enough PLE. You know, it leads us into WrestleMania. A lot of questions have been answered, like I mentioned a moment ago at the end of the men's one. Men's chamber, and there were some good moments throughout. Like a highlight of the night, I think, was that match of the night with the tag team championships on the line. Again, completely exceeded my expectations going into this one. And yeah, definitely the highlight of the night for me. It was quite a predictable event for the most part. That's my main criticism, though, and I think you mentioned that earlier on, so you'll agree with that one. I'm sure you will. But yeah, the women's tag team match getting thrown in, you know, on the kickoff show. Not going to complain about that because, you know, it's a nice opportunity for Indy, but it didn't make a lot of sense. It was thrown together. That's like the only slight criticism. But I'd rather Indy get her moment and just go for it. You know, it didn't have to mean much. Obviously, it was for the titles, but I'd rather have another Australian, you know, go out there, get the crowd pumped and ready to go, and then we can kick off the show with a chamber match. That's what they did. Obviously, you mentioned the Grayson Waller effect. That was fine. Big questions going forward regarding Cody and The Rock. And Seth saying that he's only a few days away from being medically cleared. That's what we did forget to mention earlier on. So that's kind of good. You know, he'll be back in action soon. Looking forward to seeing him in the ring again because, you know, he is the world champion and at the end of the day, we want our champions to be competing. That's the main thing that we're asking. But yeah, not the best show, but certainly not the worst. Absolutely not. So bring on WrestleMania. We're almost there.
Yes, the long road between Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania with no pay-per-views in between. But yeah, not a bad pay-per-view in the slightest. As you said, perhaps a bit predictable. But I'm not going to complain about being predictable unless it's for long periods of time, because I don't want to be throwing swerves either just to have swerves. I won't mention any names, but we all know who would have done something similar to that in the past. But yeah, none of the matches outside of the tag one I will probably go back and revisit at any time. But all of them were serviceable and or above that. So that's kind of all we can ask for. And I think, yeah, nothing too crazy. I think overall, I think I give it I guess an 8 by default. I was leaning towards 7.5, but based on the ratings I gave it, I think an 8 makes more sense. Which, you know, I think just speaks volumes to the new precedents we've set for PLEs and what we expect for them. Even an 8 comes out, you know, thinking, I guess that's maybe just a testament to the predictability of it, but none of the matches were bad. And so an 8's pretty solid rating for an overall pay-per-view. So yeah, bring on Mania.
At least it's not the wait from Survivor Series to Royal Rumble. That felt like an absolute eternity. So I think this is a little.
That is true.
Yeah, and this is a little shorter compared to that. So that's good. But yeah, you made some good points there on the back end of that. I think that the show, it was good enough. You know, it didn't need to be anything spectacular, but I think less is more. You know, less is more in these situations. There are only 4 matches on the main show announced beforehand. And it didn't look like much. If you think about it, those chamber matches, the Grayson Waller segment with the Grayson Waller effect, I think, yeah, less is more. And that's the new precedents that they've been setting for these PLEs. And, yeah, you know, times have changed. Times have changed recently. That's all I'm going to say regarding that one. And they've gone in a new direction, and I'm loving it. I really am enjoying it. I think that, you know, they've gone sort of like how Triple H used to do it in NXT. They do the matches that are absolutely necessary to do, and they don't throw in like things that you don't necessarily need to have. Obviously, you know, the tag team match at the start, you could argue, is in that category, but it's a kickoff show, and they just want something to rile up the crowd, and that's absolutely fine. International event, you want to get the crowd pumped. They've come all I'd say they've come all this way. The company have come all this way. The crowd have come out for the first time in a long time to be able to watch them in attendance, and you want to give them a good show, and I think that's what they got, to be fair. So. Yeah, WrestleMania the wait for WrestleMania now begins, and the road is going along at some sort of pace that's going to take a little while to get there, but we're going to enjoy it on the way there. Hopefully it's a good build-up, and that's all I hope for, because that's obviously a big part leading up into WrestleMania.
I did want to add one point, just because the Australia crowd was pretty good. I still leave the crown on the UK crowd. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear that, but I still think they had the best showing from a crowd perspective over the last year.
I had a big grin on my face the second you said that. So yeah, that's still pleasing to know. Yeah, you know, UK crowd, we'd love a WrestleMania. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I'm not going to like toot the own horn, but we would love a WrestleMania. That is the next goal, I think. That's next aspirations. But yeah, I do think that these guys were really, really good. They did bring a lot of noise and energy, and the chants did remind me a bit of the UK crowd. I'm not going to say them on here, but I think we all know what was said towards Dominic Mysterio. So yeah, reminded me a bit of the UK in that sense. But yeah, that's the video here done today, guys. Elimination Chamber reactions. So I guess the next time we see you all as the viewers will be WrestleMania predictions, unless we can get anything out in that time. We do have some pretty busy schedules, so we will see. But either way, WrestleMania is definitely something that we'll be doing at some point in the near future. We'll get the predictions out for both night 1 and night 2. We'll be getting into a big old discussion about all of that. But for now, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate everybody here for popping on by. And yeah, we'll see you over on the next one. This has been The Push with KP and Nick, and we will catch you guys in the next video. See you later, everybody. Take it easy, and bye-bye.